Hello, fellow dreamers. I'm Anna, and I've been living on the road for just over 2 years now, with my dog Sterling and cat Inara in our van Firefly. Recently, my boyfriend Luca joined me on the road, turning my solo journey into an intentional adventure we share together. Last week, we started this next chapter by bringing his son to college and hanging out on his boat on the coast. Now we are heading north in search of new, exciting experiences. All right, it is time to start our drive. We are heading 3 hours and 48 minutes from Oxnard, California to Alabama Hills. Here we go. Alabama Hills is really popular with overlanding folks, boondockers, because you can pretty much camp anywhere out here. But that also leads to a lot of decision making, which now we have to decide where we want to be.
I got a good feeling about this road right here.
Will we get views?
Well, what I like about this one is that we got the shade of this mountain, so it's going to cool off a little bit quicker. We get to see all of that in the sunset, and we don't know what's up there, but it looks cool.
Give it a go.
Fuck it. So as soon as we get parked, bike is coming off, and we just gotta go blast these little trails up here.
So many decisions to make. What view? What view is best? I don't know. Someone's excited.
Give me all your truth, tell me all the things you don't like. And I'll give in to you, I'll be yours and you'll be all mine. Oh, darling, I'm high. And I'm so high. Oh yeah, I can't help but think we're on the brink of something beautiful. I can't help but feel that this goes deeper than just chemicals. I'm so high, and I'm
Really glad we got to this spot and this place. It is beautiful out here, and we are just going to enjoy our evening. So we will see you in the morning and tell you a lot more about Alabama Hills. Good morning, everybody. So one thing about Alabama Hills is that it is hot, hot, hot. So we are up nice and early today to try to take advantage of some of the cooler weather before it gets up to 100 degrees. So Alabama Hills is home to dozens of natural arches, all of which are accessed through some short hikes. We're just gonna do a quick loop because we're beating the sun. Part of traveling with animals, you know, can't leave them for too long. So something really cool about this area is that you would think these kind of lower eroded stones out in front of the Big Sierra Nevadas were made from a different type of stone, but that's actually not true. They're made of the same types of sediments and rocks, but since the Sierra Nevadas are shaped by ice, glaciers, water, and they're very jagged and tall and proud and all of that. And then here, the whole area was covered with a bunch of vegetation at one point. And so all of the water kind of gathered there and eroded the stones in what's called spheroidal weathering. And so it basically stripped one layer at a time off of these stones, kind of like an onion. So they're left with these kind of potato-shaped little rocks. And then, you know, with that, when the water is eroding it, it creates these kind of cool little caverns here. So, you know, with that lush vegetation, there used to be a ton of water in this area, and the reasons why it's not are actually really directly tied to a lot of racial tensions that happened in the area.
So to understand the racial tensions of this area, firstly we need to acknowledge and understand what lands we're on here. The Native Americans that used to live here are the Paiute and the Shoshone tribes. The name of this valley was the Payahuunandu. Now, obviously I'm not really clear on the pronunciation of that, so you might want to double check it, but it means the land of flowing water. So it's hard to imagine that this was once a verdant and lush paradise filled with pinon trees. In the 1830s, during the Civil War, the U.S. Army rolled in here and they moved the tribes out of this valley. Then they started draining the water and diverting the water to all the different cities in the valley that ultimately lead to Los Angeles. So that's actually how it became so desolate and dry. So you might ask how you go from a name like Payahuunandu to Alabama Hills. And that has to do with during the gold rush, a bunch of prospectors rolled in here. They were supporters of the Confederate Army during the Civil War, and there was a famous boat, the USS Alabama. And when it sunk, in honor of this ship and the servicemen, the prospectors in the area named the area the Alabama Hills. So there's actually a push these days to return the name to one of the native names that would be indigenous to the Paiute or the Shoshone tribes. Also adding to the racial tension is during World War II, the Japanese-American internment camps were housed out here in a city named Manzanar. On a lighter note, its fun fact is that this area is really famous for a lot of the old westerns. I mean, we're talking back to some of the oldest films ever shot in film history as far as westerns go, even in the 20s were shot out here. And then all the way through the 30s, 40s, 50s, some of the most famous westerns, you know, with the likes of John Wayne, Gregory Peck, Gary Cooper, Arbuncle, Boyd. I mean, the names just go on and on and on. The Lone Ranger TV series. It's not uncommon to see these very particular rocks in the backdrops of these famous kind of western scenes.
So because it is going to get so hot today, we are going to pick up and move from our current location where there is no shade and go creek hunting. But first we are heading into the little town of Lone Pine nearby so that we can find service for an early morning meeting. Perks of the digital nomad lifestyle. So Lone Pine is a really cute little town, definitely has an Old West feel to it, and also has a history of tragedy as well. In 1872, there was one of the most massive earthquakes in California's history. It was an 8 on the Richter scale, and that demolished 52 out of 59 of the houses at the time here in Lone Pine and killed 23 people. And it was so intense that the mountains actually lifted up and moved over, both up and horizontally moved. So pretty crazy history. So unfortunately the service isn't great here. We test the service by going on to speedtest.net and looking at the download and upload speed, and it's not great in this area, so we're gonna have to keep searching. We also had a little bit of a mechanical troubles with our trailer, so we're gonna have to find a mechanic before we do anything. Just pulled up to the mechanic, Lone Pine Auto Care. He said that he might be able to help us out, so I'm gonna take a look and see what we can do. So the problem is some spokes on the trailer came loose by the tire and rubbed up against it, so we need to see if the tire is good to drive on, and also if we can weld the actual spokes back together.
Do you want a new one, or you just want to check?
The tire is okay to drive on, so woo! Step one. So the welder is gonna get us in and fix us right up. So this has been a pretty quick, easy fix on the road.
That was awesome. They were really helpful.
And the hunt for service continues. All right, so we found service for tomorrow morning's meeting. Used our little speed test to figure it out. But where we found service was really, really hot. So we kept driving up the road and lost service, but found a creek. So this is where we are going to spend our evening relaxing in the water and cooling down a little bit. So it's great. There's actually nobody else at this campsite.
Oh, it's so refreshing and beautiful. Oh, it's so nice.
Well, it is quite a chilly little stream here, but I have to say all of us are much happier being out of 100-degree heat. So to cap off a wonderful day, we have a little bit of pasta here. Super happy that we ended up in this oasis, and we're just gonna enjoy our night. Cheers.
Cheers. Buon appetito. We had so much fun exploring the Alabama hills, and highly recommend, exploring all these little nooks and crannies, all these desert trails. There's mountain biking, there's hiking, there's arches. It seems like a whole world to explore. Unfortunately, with the smoke and everything, we had to clear out, and definitely don't want to stress the systems that are otherwise already spread pretty thin.
Yeah, so we are going to change all of our plans and start heading north. And that kind of brings us to our Wayfinder tip of the week, and that is just about flexibility, about how when you're living an intentional life, whatever that may be, whether that's on the road or, at home or whatever you're doing, it's really, really important to be able to plan, make your plans. I'm such a planner. I love planning, but be ready to have that plan B, and don't be so emotionally attached to plans that it is just way too difficult and overwhelming to change them. And thank you so much to all of you on Patreon who stuck with me through the transition from Firefly and I to the Wayfinder Chronicles. That Patreon really does help me stay on the road, help us continue our adventures, and just put on a really great show for you. I also wanted to let you know that a portion of the proceeds from the Wayfinder Chronicles channel will be going to Native American Rights Foundations from here on out. We really want to acknowledge the fact that we are traveling on stolen lands and give back to the tribal communities that once lived there.